In Titus 2, older women are commanded to teach what is good so they can help younger women love their husbands and children. On today's show, you'll hear from older women who will share timeless, relevant biblical wisdom and personal, profound life experiences to help answer your questions and teach what God says is good so you can be the wife and mother you were created to be. Welcome to another episode of Older Women Likewise.
Good evening. It's so good to be with all of you this evening. I'm at my cousin's house in Georgia. We are finally homeward bound. We will be going home on Monday, and I'm so excited. We've had such a wonderful trip and seen so many places and had marvelous visits with friends and family, and it's just been a wonderful time, and I appreciate all your prayers as well as we've been making this trip. Cindy, near a Starbucks? Anywhere? Are you still in Texas? Or?
Yeah, I am in Texas. I know that much, yes. And so tomorrow we're going to be in the Houston area, the Woodlands, and we're going to go and hang out with Lauren and Matthew Bassford at the park and their kids. And so that'll be very, very pleasant. And yeah, so life is all about love and relationships, isn't it? Isn't it, Colleen?
It absolutely is.
That's what we're talking about today. And what's going on in your life, Colleen?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I did. I ordered your book, Your Fresh Start. I haven't gotten it yet. I haven't read it yet, but I did order it.
Oh, good.
That's great. You'll like it. It's really good.
Well, and I want to like it, but I also think I want to use it. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be useful for some of the things I'm trying to do.
Yes, very good. Yeah, my book, Your Fresh Start, is meant to be given away. And so we like to provide people as we go around the country. If you know anybody who you want to introduce to God and bring them into relationship with God, you can, we'll definitely hand you a free copy of Your Fresh Start. So yes, that's out there. That's part of our service as we're rolling around the country. Well, tonight, ladies, we wanted to talk about stewarding our relationships, and there's a lot of relationships to steward well, but that's why we're here, to love God and love one another and serve one another. So I am on the edge of my seat waiting to hear what you guys have to say on this. And so we thought I wanted to start with the relationship with our spouses, because it's such a foundational relationship to all the others that we're going to talk about tonight. So, Colleen, would you start us off then with your thoughts about what have you found to be good resources or just good approaches to stewarding the relationship with a spouse?
Well, with all of the close relationships we have, your spouse, children, other Christians, friends, I think that it's really important to be a talent developer. And so that'll cover all of those. The idea that you're looking for things in them and you see the special things in them that you can just mention, or you can actually, take measures to try to develop. You have a lot of influence over your kids. You can get them to do things, and you're there to tell them what to do. With your spouse, maybe not, but you can develop that ability. I love to look at Jesus. He was a talent developer. I love to look at the way that he was a talent developer. He was not just a lecturer. He spent several years with his disciples, living with them. They saw the way that he answered people. They saw how he reacted to things. And they get little answers for their own questions along the way. And they saw a lot, and they watched him. He developed their talent. He said, "I'm going to make you fishers of men." That's what you're going to do.
Yeah. And that is an upgrade. I mean, they're literally fishers of fish. And then Jesus says, I have bigger and better things for you, as he helped them to discover all that they could do to change the world. Yes. And I think our spouses, I think, do lean on us for that kind of encouragement a lot of times, even direction, as sometimes you're married early enough in life that you're kind of figuring out, hey, how are we going to support our family together, and what should I go into, and what talents do I have? Very, very good. Ila, did you have anything on what you have found useful in stewarding your relationship with your husband?
You know, Wallace and I were older when we married. I was 40 and he was 41. My mother used to say, you know, y'all have such a good marriage because you're not raising children. Don't have
less stress.
Less stress. But that it, in a way, that's true. I always say, yes, that's right. You know, you're right. It is hard. It's stressful when you're raising children together because each of you has your own individual approach to it, and we feel very strongly about it. But you know, so we didn't have that problem. We had other, you know, situations, but not that. But one of the things I have found that helps so much is just to be quiet and listen, and to encourage, and not to. Oh, I'm a fix it kind of a person. Okay, fix it. And sometimes it just needs to be listened to, and just to be together. And Wallace and I are blessed in that, you know, with our retirement, we're able to spend time together, and I think that really helps to grow our relationship. We've talked about how that, you know, we just have to help one another, encourage one another, and just be available for each other.
I think when we were rearing children together, I think I just look at those years as big growth years for our abilities and our talents. I think that was such a rewarding time for us. And it just, you do a lot of things because of your kids. If you're thinking you don't feel like doing it, you think, oh, no, I want my kids to have seen me. And that's another motivator. It helps you get up off the couch and go do some things. And I think a lot of times, if you can think through a way, like if you're trying to develop a talent in your husband and the father of your children, maybe having a good reason, instead of just saying, well, you should do this. Well, have a good reason. And maybe over time, he may not really want to do it at first, but over time, he may see that, you know, that's what the vision is for this, why he needs to go to the piano recital when he doesn't really feel like it, and what that's going to do for his daughters and sons when they see that he cared about their whatever ability, their talent, their ability, and cared about them.
It seems like I remember at the beginning of our marriage, I almost needed to build up some credibility on things like that, where here's an idea, here's something I think that would be good for you to do for our future. It's almost like I had to build a credibility. And after a while, it's like the Proverbs 31 says, the heart of her husband trusts in her. Sometimes it takes a little while for him to see how many good ideas you actually have, and how when he does take your advice, good things happen. She does him good and not evil all the days of his life. So I think they tend to listen more and more. Here's what I thought when I was thinking, okay, what has helped me most in stewarding my relationship with my husband? Number one was negotiating our incompatibilities. So we've been married like 43 years. So that's a lot of time. And we only knew each other 4 months when we married. So there was a lot of negotiation to be done. But, you know, there's certain things that are still incompatible. But we know that we have accepted the things that we cannot change. We've had, asked God's wisdom, and he's given us the wisdom to change the things that we can. And so I think that, and being grateful, very grateful, we're not going to have our spouses forever. We only get them for this life, and we never know how long we have. And so really appreciating them, not taking it for granted, familiarity does not have to breed contempt. So Mark and I try to still, what we aim to do is to treat each other like company, to have this level of politeness that we would have if we were company. And so that has been something that works well for us. Working on spiritual projects together, especially recently with our podcasts and stuff, that has been very uniting and very, very much a part of stewarding our relationship. So I asked Mark, he said, well, being around other strong Christian couples, he found that to be very beneficial because you can watch them and learn things from them, things you might want to add to your own relationship. So yeah, those were some of the things on our spouses.
Could I add something to that?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. That's one thing. I had my husband and my children and I, we all took the Myers-Briggs personality test. That helped so much because what you were talking about, blending together, and there are some things that won't change, some things you can change. And sometimes people get a little annoyed at each other because of a trait in the other person. Sometimes that's something that needs to change.
Yes.
It's just something they do, like with your kids, it's just backward and you need to mature. But in other cases, it really is just personality. It's just the way they are. They are not the people that want to be in front of the camera. They're not the people that are driven or whatever. But if you it really helped me for them to take that test, and I really felt like I could better help them along, all of them along, and that Wally and I could understand each other better by seeing what makes us tick. The thing that's kind of what you were born with. And that's probably not going to change.
Yeah.
If they don't have a great sense of humor and they don't like to laugh, I don't know that they ever will.
Yeah, there's certain things. I'm so glad you were brave enough to bring up the personality typing, because I'm a strong believer in all that, but it's so controversial. I'm always a little nervous to bring it up myself. We love the Enneagram typing system, and I do have a podcast on that on nomadsyouandi.com that goes into detail, but I'll just say, when you understand people better, you love them for who they are, and you don't expect them to be something that they're not. And so Mark is a 6. He's a loyalist. He's always going to be that. So yes, totally understand each other. So what are you guys' thoughts on stewarding the relationship with our children? What has meant the most to you and made a lot of difference for you in terms of resources or approaches to stewarding those relationships?
For me, it's just been, to be a light, shine the way, shine the Lord's light to the children, and just show them what the Lord is to me, what he means to me, how he has affected my life. And then, and of course I have adult children and pretty much adult grown, grandchildren. So that time of telling them what to do and expecting them to do it is past. Now it's just from the power of personality and from that example. And that's one of the things that I do.
I like that. I can tell how close you are with your girls. Yeah, I can really see that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. We've been through some rough times together, but we've always been honest with one another. And another thing I try to do is just constantly encourage. The rest of the world discourages us enough. We need people to encourage us in the right things that we're doing, and just there's so much that you can encourage people in, whether that's your children, anybody else.
I find you to be a very encouraging person in my own life, Ila, so I can imagine being one of your daughters. That would be an encouraging place to be. Colleen, what were your thoughts on this?
I had a professor in graduate school. It was an English professor, Dr. Richard Moore at the University of Alabama, Huntsville. Okay. He changed my life.
Really?
What he did was, yes, when I wrote a paper, he would give it back with probably a page. It could be a page of remarks. And he'd go through the actual paper and write, put exclamation marks and say, this is great. And he'd write all kinds of comments. He gave specific examples. And this is the thing that the freshman English professors, that's what they try to drill into kids' heads. Don't just say that Huckleberry Finn is the great American novel. You got to tell me why. You have to tell me specific examples of why it is. So Dr. Moore motivated me to wake up in the night with an idea and have a pencil and a paper beside my bed and write it down.
I love it.
He motivated me to spend hours thinking and thinking and thinking so that I could write this paper for him. He rewarded me. And so he changed me. He made me a talent developer. I try to remember things about people. I try to say, I teach third grade Bible class. I say, you're really good at this. Why don't you, you're really good at memorizing scripture. Why don't you do some more, like something longer passages? Or, you are really good at praying. You are I noticed this specifically about you. And this is not just put on. I'm not saying I just think up something, but trying to say specifically. Because I look back at my life, and when someone said something specifically about something I did well, I remember, decades, I can remember a little comment by somebody. And I think both of you may identify with that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Middle school teachers that said one thing to me. Yeah. Those stick in those little hearts, and they form your self-image. You're a mirror to those kids. And it's like, who am I? You are capable. You are talented. You are, and those specifics. I see this specific ability in you. Yeah.
Let me give you a specific example of this. There was a young woman that became a Christian, and I wrote her a card, and I said, I remember when you were in third grade, there was a girl that would visit sometimes. Now we all knew the girl. She would come regularly, like a couple of years ago she had come, but then she got to where she rarely ever came to Bible class. So when she came, she felt a little shy. But this girl that I was writing the card to, I said, but you would run over to her and you would give her a big hug and welcome her. And it made her feel at ease. You could just see the ice melting. And not only that, but she gave the other kids license to run over and welcome this girl. And it was great. And I told in the card, I said, the church needs problem solvers. The church needs relationship developers. The church needs relationship healers. That's you.
Yeah. This is what God made you for. Yeah. Seeing that specific thing. How encouraging, Colleen. So encouraging. My thoughts around stewarding the relationships with my children. So I was thinking also early on, as I was raising them, praying together, making the habit of daily devotions together. If it's maybe before bed, or some people do this at the dinner table. And the dinner table is about way more than food, right? So every family has kind of a different, I guess, layout of their day, but one-on-one time at some point during the day, hopefully with the whole family together. Wow, that is one of the most priceless things that you can do to steward your relationship with your children. Letting your teens assume adult responsibilities as early as possible. Like, do not let your children be freeloaders. This is not good stewardship for them. Love them enough to let them experience the discomfort or pain when they make a mistake. So this takes some judgment. You need to be compassionate, but at the same time, if you're going to run around and try to prevent them from ever feeling any consequences for their bad choices, this will not work toward their maturity. So
what would be
for me, that was something.
What would be a specific example?
if your child forgot his coat, it's okay for him to be cold on the playground that day. So early on, that's that. Yeah, so you don't want it to be cruel, but if it's a matter of forgetting, because the thing is, when you pay some consequences and there's some discomfort, that helps them to learn. They have to feel that regret. They might, I guess, not defending them also if a parent comes to you and says that your child did this or that, and you find out, I mean, do not be quick to be like, my child would never, or, find out what the truth is. And, I see a lot of parents trying to like overprotect their children sometimes from their own mistakes. And so those would be some maybe specific examples for teenagers. I would also say minimize their exposure to moral darkness. There's a lot, the culture right now is trying to desensitize our children to moral darkness, a little step at a time on these television programs. I mean, it's in the preschool programming at this point. And so the more good classic books and other, you want everything going everything you can do to let truth and wisdom and moral beauty to be entering their eyes and their ears, and doing what you can. No private access to the internet. I mean, you should familiarize yourself with parental controls. This is good stewardship. This is not overprotection. This is good stewardship of shepherding the souls of the children that God has entrusted to your care. So those, I mean, I have some other ideas, but go ahead, Colleen.
Well, the idea of the people will say, oh, you're just shielding them. I say, do it as long as they're under your roof too. I know somebody whose son is absolutely addicted to video games, and she knows it. It's been since he was a boy. But she says that, she is going to continue to keep him off of video games, or at least controlled. She's going to keep control over that. And I mean, until he goes off to college, at least, because I feel like, there are things that I think my parents kind of let go of that were really great things, like with diet and other things in my life. And they kind of let go of those things too early. I say, keep on them at least till they're 18.
Yeah, Colleen, so much of what you say, I can always relate to what you say on these kinds of things. I think we think a lot of like on these things. And
but we now know,
to be honest, I had there was not one video game played in my house. You can ask my kids, like, we do not have time for this. Now, I probably allowed too much. I could have done better in terms of other television and everything, but it hadn't turned the corner yet when I was raising kids that it has now. Well, let's switch gears, lady.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about, just for a minute or two, about extended family. What has worked well for you in terms of stewarding your relationships with your extended family?
I had a conversation not too long ago with a sister who was having an issue with extended family and relationship. And I told her, I said, well, think first, what is your goal in this interaction? What you're trying to accomplish? What do you want to accomplish? What outcome are you looking for? And that's a lot of times the goal that we have in mind is for that person to change themselves. Well, that's that's not helpful. And instead, if we think, what is my goal? At the end of this interaction, what do I want to have accomplished? And first of all, it always is to show Christ, to be Christ-like and godly. And I think that can really help us a lot with extended family that are not Christians, that are not godly people, perhaps, that, think, what is our goal? What are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah. Yeah. What were your thoughts on this, Colleen?
Well, I came at it from, I love that, Ila. That is so true. We have to step back and we have to say, is it like I want her to change?
Yeah.
And it could just be that it's her personality just doesn't go well with yours. You just don't like it. You just don't know. But yeah, the first place, you just need to look inward. But I also wanted to add that I have had several members of my family become Christians. In some case, I mean, it took years, maybe not a long time, maybe quickly, but then others over the years, and some decades it took them. So don't give up on being the right example, and continuing in whatever way you can to let them come to you later. Maybe they may change their mind later. You want to keep the door open always, to that they can come and they can come to Christ and become a Christian. And you might be shocked, which ones really actually did after all those years, they did come to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk now, ladies, about our stewarding our relationships with those within our congregation. So I will start us off on this one and throw out a few practical ideas of how you can steward those relationships. One idea I have is to use your church directory as a prayer list, and maybe even a hospitality to-do list. I love when I meet a sister who has set out to at least invite everyone in her congregation over that year. So you might be in a congregation where you're going to need to do parties of 6 in order for that to happen by the end of the year. Or, maybe you're in a smaller congregation and you can have people over several times. But I love the idea of, because when you're praying through those names, you're recalling, I should send her a card. Or you're recalling, it just kind of helps you to turn your heart towards them and their needs. So I'll start us off with that. What are you thinking on these ideas, Colleen, on congregational relationship stewarding?
Well, one of the things, and this goes for all of them, but I do think that with your spouse, with your children, with the people in your congregation, your friends, I think a sticking point, and one of the things that will really smooth things out and help everybody to grow and develop, is giving and taking constructive criticism, or even not so constructive. And can you identify with that? It's hard, in a marriage, and when your spouse says, I didn't really like that you said this. And sometimes it depends on how mature you are, whether you can take it or not. And so that follows through in the congregation. With other Christians, we are told that there will be surprises on the day of judgment. So we should, when somebody gives us some constructive criticism, we should be willing to take it and just say, you know what, I'm gonna analyze this, even though my initial response is that I don't think that's true. We take it and we analyze it, and we try to figure out if there's anything I can get out of that, because I would much rather my enemy tell me what's wrong with me and have me, feel that pain and go through and say, okay, maybe he or she has a point, then and find it out now, than to find it out on the day of judgment and be surprised. In Matthew 25, Jesus has just cursed some for neglecting those in need. And in verses 44 through 46, he says, then they also will answer him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and did not minister to you? Then he will answer them saying, assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. So take the criticism now. It's hard. I have to work on that. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. but it's much better to take it now and work on it now and benefit than to wait until the day of judgment, is the way I see it.
Yeah.
And giving it to
those,
people. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just those are the people that love you the most, the ones that are willing to tell you the hard thing. They're taking a chance. And so maybe 10%, at least a part of what they're saying is useful to you. And God knows if there is part of it that is absolutely unfounded, and God knows the score. So they're doing that because they care. I mean, we have to assume love hopes all things. I'm assuming they're talking to me about this because they care very much about me. So that helps, I think, to be able to take it.
You think that's a difficult
can
thing?
I grew up where that was what we did. So I have a little bit of an advantage in that area where I'm not sensitive, but I'm not saying I've never been hurt by anything anyone has ever said. So I think we all have different levels of that, but that was an expression of love in the family that I grew up in. It was understood that if someone said something, it was for your own advantage, but it wasn't a critical family. We rarely criticized each other. So we knew this is rare. So if she's saying this to me now, this is for real. So that's kind of what it was when I was growing up. So I carried that with me now.
Yes. You're lucky.
But I have to realize other people weren't raised like that, and they are sensitive, exactly like what you're talking about. So I have to be more sensitive.
One of the things I think kids that grow up playing sports, or they're in band, or they have some sort of training in the arts, they do learn to just take it. Because they can't take it, their coach won't let them play. and they learn that, oh, well, okay, maybe he had a point or she had a point, or maybe my piano teacher is correct that I'm not practicing enough. And that they learn that, okay, I need to take this and use it.
All right. Any thoughts on this? Ila, I've seen your relationships in your congregation are so warm and healthy. I've been around your circle, and so you must have done a really good job in nourishing and stewarding those relationships in your congregation.
One of the things I always try to do is to bring value to the congregation or to the person. What can I do, as my dad used to say, for the good of the cause? What can I do to help?
Right.
And I try, whatever the relationship is, to try to bring some value there, whether it's something I'm doing or just the smile or just how are you, question, and really listen.
Yeah.
I constantly think about that. What value am I bringing to this person?
I love that.
Also, yeah. And in our congregations, it's important to always do what you can to take up people's offers of any kind of social opportunity. This will steward well your relationship. All those classes that I know both of you guys throw yourself into, all of that is building those relationships and that rapport. And it's a sacrifice on your part. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing that adds the closeness to all those younger women that you're teaching. So I really admire that.
Getting back to what Ila said, it is really good to listen to people, and it's too easy to want to tell what you want to tell. I remember a preacher named Harold Comer. I knew him when I first became a Christian. And so I was a young woman, and I met him. Somebody had invited me to their house for supper, and he was there. And I remember thinking he sat there and talked to me, and he kept asking me questions. Well, then what did you do? Well, how do you do this? Well, tell me this. And I thought, that's the first time I think anybody has ever really. And now my family was very supportive, but I don't think anybody ever sat there and really just kept asking me and was really wanting to know, and just kept on and on. And I thought, I want to do that for other people.
Yeah.
Yes. Love that. That's great we were going to talk about friends next. And that I love applying that to the friendship. Yes, all the follow-up, like you're genuinely curious. Tell me more, right?
Yeah. What did you do
Very
next?
good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then what happened and how did you feel about that? And yeah, I love it when people interact with me that way. And so treating other people the way I'd want to be treated is because we're helping each other process the things that are going on in our lives. And so when we're asking those questions, what's happening in the mind of your friend is that she's having light bulb moments because she hadn't thought to ask herself that. And you know what I mean? So we're helping each other synthesize everything going on in our busy lives. So that's a beautiful communication tool, Colleen.
And I love, I think Bible classes where there's a lot of discussion. I love when we can eat supper together and get to know each other and on a social level. But in Bible class, that's where I really learn who my brethren are in a deep way.
Yeah.
And I love that when the teachers will allow people to, have some comments and some discussion.
Sometimes we focus on those social aspects. We need to all have the social, and thinking that that's the way that we get to know each other. But I think you're right, Colleen. There have been so many more times when we're talking about Bible things that we really share ourselves with other Christians and even with our friends and acquaintances. I know one of the things we're going to talk about next, I think, is about shepherding that relationship with them. And we sometimes focus so much on just social chit chat to where we don't really get down to who we really are and who we are as Christians. So, yeah, I don't think we can overemphasize that Bible study and times of Bible discussion are so important in our relationships.
Yes, I agree.
Also times of prayer together. Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. As we've traveled, we've had prayer with people as we've left their home and gone on, to the next place. And those times are so special. I mean, they really bind us.
Yes.
Definitely, especially during times of Sorry, you guys, my microphone is delaying tonight because my internet is not very good. So I can tell I'm a little bit delayed. But I was just going to add that, especially in crisis together, praying aloud together. I mean, I have a friend, my friend Janice McDonald, that was on our program when we first got started to talk about food addiction. She prays over me when I'm in crisis, and that means the world to me. And that stewarding of our friendship, I think that's probably been the most meaningful thing to me, that we've cried together, we've laughed together, and then just had long phone conversations, maybe when I'm out on a walk or just kind of like doing some kind of mindless task. To have your friends on the other end of the phone while you're doing those tasks helps you to steward, because things will come up that you didn't realize that they needed to think through until maybe you've been on the phone for 20 minutes and then finally something happens to surface that they really, has really been heavy on them and that kind of thing. So yeah, that has been when we're there together in crisis, that's been really meaningful. Sorry if I interrupted anyone. I'm delayed right now with my Wi-Fi.
I did have another comment. You can know people for 10, 20, maybe 30 years and be, in the congregation with them, and you love them, they love you. But it is the ones that you've been in the trenches with that really makes a difference. Like you were talking about, in time of crisis, you've been in the trenches together, or like if you've taught kids Bible class together. Not that that's necessarily the trenches, but what it is, you're working hard together, and you're motivated together. And you hear this so she teaches one class and then you teach the next class, and you hear what she's about. You hear her motivation. You hear how much she loves Jesus. And it's like, you don't really get that. You almost don't get that in any other way. And it is just, you're so close to those people.
Yeah. Working together. Yes. Yes, that's why, well, I don't know if this fits or not, but what you're saying reminds me of the tight-knit relationship that you see within people that have been in the military together.
Mm-hmm.
They're so tight because they were working hard on an important project together, and that's a little bit similar to what you're describing when you're serving God together, whether you're in a classroom or maybe you're cleaning a house together for someone who broke her leg or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a bonding element to that, uniting your talent together to achieve something spiritually meaningful.
And I think, when we're told to work, to teach, to, clean somebody's house who broke their leg, and all these things, when we hear that, we might think, oh, I don't feel like it, or, oh, I'm no good at that, or I'm not comfortable doing that. But
Yeah.
really what the work is important, and the accomplishment of what Jesus wants us to do. But at the same time, it matures us and it makes us strong together. He knows that. He knows what you just said, we want to be bound together like soldiers who are fighting an enemy.
Agreed. So we were going to talk about stewarding the relationship with our acquaintances, but I feel like last time we sat down together, we really went thoroughly through all kinds of evangelism ideas. And that's really at the heart of stewarding those kinds of relationships. And so I'll just throw out there that I pass out copies of my book, Your Fresh Start, to steward my relationship with acquaintances. When I asked my husband about this, he made a good point to me. He said, you know what? I want to be memorable when I walk away from an acquaintance kind of conversation with someone. I want to leave them with something to think about. And I thought that really hits the nail on the head. That, because it's amazing that haven't you guys walked away from something that someone said and you just think about it the rest of the day, like, wow, I'm going to have to write that down. That's really sticking with me. So that happens all the time on our travels. So that's what we're hoping to offer acquaintances.
Ila, I guess I need to give you an opportunity to talk. I've been.
No, you're good, Colleen. Go right ahead.
Well, your husband says he wants people to remember when he walks away. He wants them to remember, at least, I guess, probably at least, that he was a Christian who was working.
Right.
At least he tried. They may throw the book in the garbage. You don't know what happens. But when I write a card to somebody, I try to spend a lot of time thinking about that person, what I remember about them, or if it's, a sympathy card, and what I remember about their parents or whatever. And when I'm writing that card, I want that card. I want, when they die, I want their kids to find that card stuck in a box.
Yes.
That was worth saving. Yeah.
Yes, it was worth saving, and maybe it could go on teaching even after they're gone and I'm gone.
Yeah.
How beautiful, Colleen. I love that. Don't make me feel like grabbing a Kleenex right now, okay?
Well, I had this guy one time tell me, and now this is somebody else's opinion. He said he had a couple of family members die pretty close together. And he said, you know what? People buy a card, they slap the name on it, and they send it, and it doesn't mean anything. Now, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying that's what he said. And I always feel like I do want it to mean something, and to show, give attention to the person who needs the attention now.
Yeah.
I think usually we're so afraid we're going to say the wrong thing, or it's going to sound stupid, but anytime you express your feelings and genuinely to someone, it never sounds stupid. It may not be the most highest poetry in the world, but that's not what we're trying for. We're just heart to heart. We're just trying, like you said, Colleen, make an impact on that person, trying to enrich their lives through Christ, if they aren't already Christians.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, ladies, what do you say we save our content that we worked on stewarding our relationships in our communities, our nation, the world? That to me could probably fill up an entire 40-minute program later on. And so I'll propose that tonight, so that we can
That
wind
sounds
this
good.
program down. It's been a really great and thorough conversation. So I'm glad that we took the time that we did to focus on these particular relationships. So, Ila, what do we have coming up on Older Women Likewise?
Well, next we're going to be talking about things that we're thankful for. And it's going to be a pre-recorded program because next Thursday we know is Thanksgiving. So, but we're going to pre-record that program so we can be with our families, and we're just really looking forward to talking about things that we're thankful for, both the spiritual things and the physical things as well. We want to encourage you to continue to watch Older Women Likewise on Thursdays at 8 o'clock. We'll be back next week and after that. And next month, we're going to be talking about aging and death. And we have some good speakers coming up that we're going to talk about that. And it's, the end of the year is a time as we're ending things, is a time we think about ends of life, and that's one of the things we want to talk about for a couple of times in December. And we're also going to our last program of the year. We're going to talk about what we've done this year and then what we're planning to do next year as well. So we're working on that program and looking forward to bringing that information to you as well. And Colleen, we have appreciated so much the time with us this month, and we look forward to seeing more of you next year on Older Women Likewise as we get our schedule organized. So
well, thank you
so much.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I just really, I love that the two of you are doing this and others that are involved in it. And I love that Ila has learned how to do all the technical stuff and to produce this show.
Technical
stuff. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been fun, and I'm like it. I always like to be in charge of things. So,
you're good at being in charge.
In charge of stuff. So, but found out more about me than you wish you knew. We encourage you as well on Tuesdays to watch Answering Religious Error. That's on Tuesdays at 8 o'clock. The men that are on that program are doing a wonderful job of talking about spiritual things. And also on Wednesdays at noon, they're answering questions of a Bible nature, and we encourage you to watch that as well. Listen each day, Monday through Friday, to the Daily Answer podcast. Mark Dunnigan is doing a great job with those, and we are just so glad to be associated with Answering Religious Error to bring that information out as well. So we thank all of our viewers who are with us this evening and then on podcast and later watching it later on. And thank you again, Colleen. Did I say Dana wasn't here because she had unexpected company? I can't remember if I said it or not, but anyway, we missed Dana tonight, but
we did.
These things happen. So, that's part of life. So, okay. See you later. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Bye.